I will be forever the myth.
You're the king of kings, Arnold.
There's always a pecking order. The little packers never mess with the big packers. So I'm a rooster, and he's a chicken, so to speak.
Well, Jerry, let's go to 1988. So we'll go 30 years back from where we're at now, and the Olympia that year, I think, was one of the best Olympias ever. 1980 Olympia, that was the one held in Los Angeles, and I think Lee Haney won his 5th Mr. Olympia. But I just thought it had one of the greatest lineups ever in Olympia history, and everybody was in top shape in that contest.
Yeah, that stands out for a number of reasons. That I did attend that contest.
Oh, you did? Oh, great.
It was held in Los Angeles. I remember the pre-judging was at a hotel in Universal City.
Yeah.
Universal Studios. They had a hotel there, and they did something that year that they never did before. Since I'm not sure if you're aware of this.
The weigh-in, yeah.
The weigh-in. They had a weigh-in, which was amazing because remember all these guys, the pros. And the magazines, they all exaggerated their weights.
Right.
I mean, nobody went around saying they weigh 275 like they do today. But,
right.
Guys would say they weigh 225, 230, 240, 50, and that kind of stuff. And Lonnie Tipo was the MC. I remember they had a scale set up on a stage, and all the guys, all the competitors went on the scale. Imagine, all these people were in the audience watching this.
Yeah.
Lonnie Tipo, with the microphone, would state with the weight, in public state. I remember Gaspari getting on. Rich Gaspari was claiming to be 225,
right?
And when he was on the scale, he was something like 205.
Yeah.
I think the heaviest guy, if I remember correctly, was Lee Haney. Lee Haney, I think, was maybe 238 or 240, or maybe even 243.
Yeah.
But he was.
Let's see what Haney looks like. Well, he certainly looks big. He looks hard. He looks like he's ready. This may very well be his 5th win. Lee's symmetry looks, in fact, I think, better than ever right now. Just standing there, Lee looks like the winner.
243 and a quarter pounds.
Another guy whose weight was really up was Barry DeMay. Remember Barry DeMay?
Yeah.
Great guy, great build, but he was claiming 220, and he was something like 205.
Wow.
And I think Gary Stridham.
Yeah, Gary Stridham was down in weight too.
All the guys' weight that they had claimed in the magazines was completely off.
Yeah.
Now, a devil's advocate might stop at this point and say, "Wait a minute, Jerry. Maybe the weights they said in the magazines were their off-season weight when they got heavier, and that what you saw was their contest weight because they were going to compete in a contest in a couple of hours,
Right.
But unfortunately, the problem with that is the weights that were stated in the magazines weren't supposed to be their contest weights.
Right.
So guys were like, I remember a couple of them. Was it Lee Labrada? A couple of them, I remember when they announced the weight, they kind of made a face, like embarrassed that the truth is being revealed about their actual weights.
Right.
It was funny, hilarious. But Brian Buchanan was there. I remember. Just about everybody. There was nobody in the whole lineup whose weight matched what they claimed. No, the only guy who came close was Lee Haney. He was the only one.
Yeah.
And he won. It was a terrific show with the back.
Wasn't it? It was a great show.
It was a great show. In fact, I'd say it's between that and I think a year later they held it in Rimini, Italy. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Those two are by far my favorite Mr. Olympias because everything was great. I mean, the one in Rimini, Italy was this little town called Rimini. It looked like a giant movie set, John. It was a little small town.
Oh, really?
Right off the Adriatic Sea. I mean, you could just walk the whole town in about 15 minutes.
Wow.
Just beautiful. Just a beautiful place. That was the contest where I remember interviewing Lee Labrada about his pre-contest diet, where Lee Labrada was another, and still is to this day, as you know, a very intelligent guy.
Yeah.
Has an engineering degree, very smart, great bodybuilder. I think he should have won the Mr. Olympia in 1990, but that's another story.
Right.
Perfect physique. But anyway, I was interviewing about his pre-contest dieting. He was very forthcoming throughout the whole interview. We were sitting right outside the hotel, I remember. And I said, Lee, for the readers, can you just give me a typical day's eating, like meal 1, meal 2? So the readers, this was for Joe's magazine, Muscle and Fitness. So the readers could get an idea of exactly how you eat. So he says, okay, for breakfast I have, and then he says, wait a minute, hold on a second. I said, what's the matter? He says, no, I think I'm going to stop at this point, Jerry. I said, what's going on? He says, I don't want to give my exact diet. And I turned off the tape recorder and I said, I don't understand, Lee. Why don't you want to give your exact meal plan? He says, because it would give my competitors an edge. Exact words. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to argue. I said, okay, Lee, I got enough information. And I shook his hands. I said, thanks a lot. But I kind of wondered about that. I said, I said to myself, would there be, let's say, one of the Lee Labrada's main competitors, Lee Haney, let's say, would it be an advantage for Lee Haney to know that Lee Labrada ate 3 eggs instead of 4?
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying anything against Lee Labrada. I mean, he's a great, very intelligent guy, very successful. More power to him. He's got a great supplement company. His brother Gene is a great guy also. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was because Lee was dieting and now wasn't focusing. I think maybe he was focused on the contest. Right. And I have a funny feeling that if I got him at another time, he would have given me that information. Right. Just a question of the wrong time. So nothing. It was nothing here nor there. It was just But I remember how pretty Rimini was. What a beautiful place that was. Yeah. But the LA Olympia was. I mean, if you look at the stage setting, it's funny. At Gold's Gym, they have a big screen there in the front, and they run constantly.
They show it. Yeah, they show it all the time. Yeah.
You ever see that? Yeah. They rerun 88 Mr. Olympia over and over again. So, and I see that and I think, my God, I was at that show. Yeah. It brings back memories, Yeah.
But the thing I loved about that show, too, it seemed like everybody had really great posing routines. I can watch that tape over and over again.
Right, but did you notice how good the lighting was, too?
Yeah, that's great.
And it had like that blue background. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the lighting didn't drown out. Sometimes the contest lighting is bad. Yeah. And this show, the lighting was done so well. I can't remember who set up the lighting. I'm not sure who it was. But the lighting was perfect, and it showed the guys at their maximum. It didn't drown out the definition. Yeah. Everything looked great. It was a great show, very smoothly run. Yeah. Very good show.
What do you think of Lee Haney as Mr. Olympia? I mean, he sort of set a whole new standard, right, when he came along?
Oh, there's no question about it. Lee Haney, was it 84 the year he won first?
84, yeah.
Yeah, he set a new standard because he had literally, again, almost a perfect physique. Yeah. I mean, some people criticize Lee. They say his arms weren't big enough, or this and that. But the thing is, he had, again, I hate to keep harping back on that, but he had that head-to-toe body. Mm-hmm. I don't think he was a great poser. Honestly, to me, he would just do a pose and then put his arm down and move. He didn't flow. Like Lee Labrada was very flowing, artistic, almost like a ballet. Mm-hmm. Lee was just I guess you'd call him a power poser. Yeah. And the interesting thing about that is that the 1990 Olympia was very controversial. A lot of people don't know this. But Lee Labrada actually won the pre-judging. I don't know if you know that. Yeah, yeah. That was held in Chicago. That was the only steroid or drug-tested Mr. Olympia ever held. Right. It was held in Chicago in 1990. And I knew that Lee Labrada had won the pre-judging, right? After the contest, of course, history records that Lee Haney won the show. Right. And I remember asking the head judge, I said, I'm confused. I don't understand. I said, Lee Labrada won the pre-judging, and then Lee Haney wins the overall contest. I said, how do you explain that? And he says, Lee Haney had a better presentation. I said, I'm confused. What do you mean by that? I mean, you're talking about his physique? He says, yeah, his physique, of course, but he was a better poser. And I stopped, again, I turned off the tape recorder. I said, hold on. Are you looking me in the eye and telling me that you think Lee Haney I love Lee. He's a great guy. I think he's a fantastic guy. Are you going to sit here and tell me that you think Lee Haney was a better poser than Lee Labrada? Are you going to say that? He says, that's the way the judges scored it. I mean, I always get a laugh at it because there was no comparison between Lee Labrada. Lee Labrada was an exceptional poser.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
As great a bodybuilder as he was, I don't think anybody in their right mind would call him a great. He was not a good poser. Great physique, but the one reason why, getting back to setting a new standard, one reason why Lee Haney did set a new standard in '84 was because his back development was tremendous. I mean, the only, I think, comparable person who had a back like his prior to that was what's his name again? Samir Bannout.
Okay.
When Samir Bannout won, was it 82? I think 83. He had a perfect back, Samir. And then this Lee Haney comes along, and he looks great from the front, but when it was actually close, the contest. And when Lee Haney, you have to understand, when he competed in winning those, was it 8 Mr. Olympias?
Yeah.
It was still a contest. In other words, it wasn't really a foregone conclusion until, let's say, the last 3 years of Lee Haney's reign. The first couple of years, it was like an open season. Anybody could have won. Okay. And my observations were that it was very close until they started doing back poses.
Yeah.
Lee's back was so full. His back was so wide. He had detail, kind of like Flex Wheeler showed later. And every inch of his back showed muscularity and detail to the extent that, I'm not saying the other guys' backs were bad, but Lee overshadowed them so badly that it was over as soon as he turned to the back.
Yeah.
In fact, I go so far as to say that the reason he beat Dorian Yates in 1991, which was his last year of competing, Dorian and him were very close throughout the contest, but when they turned to the back, Lee Haney's back was superior to Dorian's. And remember, Dorian Yates, think back, he was no slouch when it came to the back.
No,
his back
no.
Fantastic. But Lee Haney's back was so great that he edged out Dorian Yates that year in the 91.
Yeah.
Of course, Dorian's back got better. He got bigger and bigger. Dorian was relatively small in the 91 show.
Yeah.
As the years passed, Dorian told me right around that time, in fact, right that same year, in an interview I did with him, Dorian said, I said, what are your plans? He says, I'm going to be the Mr. Olympia of the 90s. The 90s are going to be my era. I said, what do you mean? He says, I'm going to win the title throughout. Remember, he hadn't even won the title yet.
Yeah.
He just lost to Lee Haney, second place.
Yeah.
I'm going to win the title. It's almost like what Arnold told me,
Yeah.
He says, I'm going to win the title next year and for a couple of years after that, maybe 6 years, he goes.
Wow.
Talk about good prognostication.
Right.
And more power to him. If you look at the photos, he did improve every year.
Yeah.
That's why he quit when he got those injuries and he said he couldn't train 100. Now you can understand why, because the way Dorian Yates' mind worked, he had to show improvements every year. Although one year, was it 97? I can't remember. There was one year where I felt that he should have lost, and that was against Nasser El Sambadi. Do you remember that year?
97, yeah.
He came in with some sort of bicep tear, Dorian. And he also, I was standing backstage, and I noticed, I was standing when they were comparing him to Nasser. And the thing I noticed about Dorian is he had almost no leg bicep development. Nothing.
Wow.
And had this gigantic leg bicep. And Nasser from the front not only matched Dorian, but even looked bigger. Even his back came close to matching Dorian. But Dorian won.
Yeah.
And the reason he won is related also to Lee Haney's successive wins. It's something that I call, and I've written this in the magazines, I call it the incumbent Olympia factor.
Right.
What this means is that a guy who's won the Mr. Olympia more than once, not once, but more than once, already has an edge. As soon as the curtain opens, as soon as they step on stage, he's standard to which all the other competitors are being compared. What that means in practical terms is if Mr. Olympia, the incumbent Mr. Olympia, is in good shape or even better shape than he was the year before, he wins.
Yeah.
In fact, this is what happened this year to Phil Heath. Phil Heath did not look bad, but I didn't see any improvement. I saw a guy who still had a little bit of bloat in his stomach, right? Great body. Oh my God, just a fantastic bodybuilder, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was the other guy, whose name escapes me at the moment, who's the current Olympia? I didn't remember.
Sean Roden.
Sean Roden showed a lot of improvement. Sean Roden, the year before, had been off.
Yeah, he was.
And then he came back with an improved physique. So one of the other competitors showed significant improvement, whereas the incumbent Mr. Olympia, who was going for his, what was it? Was it eighth title? I think
yeah,
it
would
was.
have been 8. Yeah, he would have won.
You know,
he would have tied the record with Haney and.
Everybody just thought it was a sure thing. Who was going to beat Phil Heath? And this guy Sean Roden comes in with significant improvement, looking the best he's ever looked in his life, beats Phil Heath.
Yeah.
That was the. This is my point. This is the exception to the rule. And with Lee Haney, it only happened once, and he still beat him. That was the '90 contest where Lee Labrada should have won. Yeah. Honestly, he won the prejudging. That thing about him losing because of posing was absolutely absurd. Anyone would agree with me on that.
Yeah.
Lee Labrada should have won the '90 show course. Lee Haney was off. Was he off because it was drug tested and maybe he had to get off the drugs? I don't know. That's speculation.
Right.
I can tell you this though: the '90 show, all the guys were a little bit off, except for Lee Labrada. All the guys were off, and so much so that when I spoke to Wayne DeMille after the show, remember Wayne DeMille was the honcho, was the head of the IFB Pro division at that time.
Right.
I said, Wayne, so this is going to be a regular thing, right? The drug testing? He said, Jerry, this is off the record. So I had to turn off my tape recorder. I said, what's going on, Wayne? He says, no, this is it. We're not going to drug test anymore. I said, what? I said, you make a big deal about drug testing. And
right.
We all happy because now we're going to get in the Olympics and all this stuff.
Right.
And now you're going to get rid of it? He says, Jerry, did you see the guys? You see how off they were? I said, well, yeah. I mean, a lot of the guys didn't look as good as they usually do. He says, the bodybuilding fans come to see freaks. He says, not guys that are just in shape. They want to see freaks.
Right.
And if you drug test them, the freaky look is gone.
Right.
So no more drug testing. That's a true story. Never appeared in the magazines. But
right.
Now you know why there was only one drug test that Mr. Olympia.
Right.
But Lee Haney always showed. I'll tell you a funny story about Lee Haney. In 1987, at the 87 show, which was held in Gothenburg, Sweden. You remember that show?
Right, yep.
I happened to be put in a hotel away from everybody. And I said, well, let me stick me in this hotel maybe by myself. But I didn't realize there was one other person who was also in the hotel, Lee Haney.
Really?
All the other bodybuilders staying at one hotel. Lee Haney was at another, and I happened to be in the same hotel. So I met up with Lee Haney and his training partner, and we all had breakfast. This is the day before the contest in Sweden, and so Lee's sitting there, and he says, Jerry, I'm gonna Lee talk. I'm gonna head to the gym, and I'm gonna go in the tanning machine. He goes, I said, you're not gonna train? He says, no. He says, I'm just going to go in the tanning machine, right? So I said, you mind if I take a ride with you? Because I'm going to maybe get a little workout. He said, sure, come on. So we go there, and I remember when we walked in this gym in Sweden, this small bodybuilding gym in Sweden, every bodybuilder, all the guys were there, all the competitors, right? Well, this is the day before the show, and the first thought I had was, why are these guys training the day before the show?
Right, it's already done.
They think they're going to make gains or something?
Right.
And Lee had no intention of training. He was, heading for the tanning booth. And the thing I'll always remember that was funny about it, it was like a scene out of a movie. As soon as Lee Haney walked in the gym, there was total silence. Everybody stopped what they were doing and stared. All of Lee LeBron, everybody just stared at Lee Haney. And he says, "Hi guys, how you doing?" Walked past them into whatever the tanning room was, right. And then they came in straight in. It was hilarious. It was just funny how the king walks in. He was already won the Mr. Olympia company. He was the king of bodybuilding.
Right.
It was almost like they were paying deference to the king.
Right.
I wish I had a video. That would have been hilarious.
Yeah. Now you saw Arnold at his best, and you saw Haney at his best. Who do you think was better?
Oh, that's a tough question. But
it would have been close, right, between those two.
It would have been close because Arnold had things on Haney, and Haney had. I believe Haney had better symmetry. In other words, he had better muscle balance.
Yeah.
Arnold had much, much better arms. He had a wider back, and he was a bigger man. But I have to say that Arnold at his best, and I would say to look at him in 1974. Do you remember when he won the 74 Olympia?
Sure.
I think that's when he beat Lou Ferrigno.
Yep.
He was at his best that year. I think it was the best year he ever had. Arnold, looking like that, I believe would have defeated Lee Haney. Looking like that.
Yeah.
And Arnold in 1980, Lee Haney would have even the 1990 Lee Haney, which was considerably off, would have defeated the 1980 Arnold.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. I guess it depends also on the situation, but that's a really tough question because they were both really great. I mean, two of the greatest ever.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, but Arnold, I don't know. To me, if you ask me who's the single greatest Mr. Olympia, my first answer would be Ronnie Coleman, because he was the freak of all freaks. No one ever matched his muscle size, and he dominated that show. I mean, talk about incumbents. For the years he held the title, it was always for second place. It was kind of similar to Frail Heath for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a foregone conclusion when Ronnie stepped on the stage. Nobody came close to matching his mass. Nobody.
Yeah.
The only guy that came close was Flex Wheeler.
You're saying the most dominant Mr. Olympia.
Oh, the most dominant. I would say was Ronnie Coleman because of that. But for overall greatness, maybe it's because he's done so much with his life. Maybe I'm throwing that into. I would still have to say Arnold. The one in my book. But Ronnie, if you talk about pure bodybuilding, it's Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah.
But for overall greatness, probably Arnold.
But the standards have changed too so much, right, Jerry? I mean, back then, symmetry was considered important, aesthetics. I mean, when I look at pictures of Arnold, like there's a picture of him when he won the 1973 Mr. Olympia, and he's standing on stage with Joe Weider and his girlfriend at the time, Barbara Outland, and he's just standing there, and he looks so perfect. His thighs, his arms, his chest, his waist. I mean, to me, that picture of how he looks at that show, that's the ultimate Mr. Olympia. Like when I think of Mr. Olympia, I think of that. So I mean, Ronnie was obviously much bigger. But Ronnie lost the aesthetic appeal, I think. And then, you could also look at Lee Haney, who I think, I agree with you. I think him and Arnold were like the top of the line when it comes to mass and symmetry and aesthetic appeal. But I think when you talk about the modern day bodybuilder, they've lost that aesthetic appeal. That's why I always prefer to look at guys like from the 70s or 80s as the ultimate bodybuilders.
Well, yeah, you're right. You have to really look at that aspect of bodybuilding because in Arnold's day, as you correctly stated, there was an aesthetic portion of bodybuilding. In other words, you had to have everything in balance. Symmetry was very important.
Right.
I conditioned that. Like I said earlier, when I judged the shows, symmetry and proportion were, to me, the two main ideals to look for in a bodybuilder. I didn't care about big arms or big calves or big. You had to have it all in balance. That to me was the freaking body, and that's what was. That's
good judging too, and not too many judges judge like that anymore, unfortunately.
That's right. You're right. But today, there is some sort of like the aesthetics are not quite as significant, let's say, as they were back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think again, this plays a part in why Sean Roden also won this year.
Yeah.
Because I went up to him when he was training for this year's contest. I never met Sean Roden. Remember, I haven't written for the magazines in years, so I don't know the current guys. But I saw him training in the gym, and I went up to him and I introduced myself, and I said, Sean, I got to tell you, I said, of all the pro bodybuilders, I admire your physique the most because you remind me of the days when I competed, back in the 70s, when symmetry and proportion were king. I said, you have a symmetrical proportion physique that is aesthetically pleasing, even though you have a large amount of muscle size, right?
Yeah.
Now, he had just gotten off the treadmill when I had this conversation, and he looked at me and didn't say anything. He didn't say thank you. I did say one other thing. I said, Sean, talk about broadcasting. Sean, I'll be rooting for you in the Mr. Olympia. That was the last thing I said to him.
Uh-huh.
And he just kind of, a slight smile on his, lips, not a real smile, he went like that, just a little thing. And he turned and walked away. He didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, well, how do I make it? What do I think about this? I said, that just me. I said, it's either he's like dieting really, because having been a bodybuilder,
yeah.
I know brain gets when you're dieting.
Right.
He's dieting very strictly. He just got off doing 45 minutes of aerobics. I said, so the guy is, not in a mood to talk.
Yeah.
So, let's not take anything personal. He's probably also introverted.
Yeah.
So,
yes, yeah.
So that's the way I looked at it. But I mean, I meant it when I said that. I thought, so honestly, John, when he won, I wasn't, I was only mildly surprised. And the reason I was mildly surprised was because I thought for sure, I really did. I thought that they would give it to Phil Heath.
Oh, I did too. All the way. Yeah. 100%.
Honestly, I'm not a betting man, but I would have actually bet money on it.
Me too.
Especially since, for two reasons. Also, because Sean Roden, everybody was going by the way he looked the year before, where he was off. So they thought that, remember, the guy is, 42 years old?
Yeah.
They figured he'd be off again. So who's going to beat, who's going to beat Phil?
Yeah.
And the other thing was that the one guy who I thought actually could possibly beat Phil was not in the contest. You know what I'm talking about, right? That's
Kai Green. Kai Green. Yeah.
I'm glad you remembered his name because Kai Green, I think the year that, you remember that year they competed again? Their physiques were so close.
Yeah.
Kai Green actually did something that no one had done. He matched Phil Heath's back. He matched his back.
Yeah.
He even had wider lats.
Right, yeah.
That contest could have gone either way that night.
Yeah.
And Phil Heath was in good shape. He still had the belly, but he was in good shape.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, so, those two factors, the fact that Kai Green wasn't there and the fact that, that Sean had been off the year before, I would have bet money that Phil Heath would win. I'm glad that I did, but I mean, it was a big surprise,
Yeah.
Although when I did watch it on over the internet, and as the contest went on, I said to myself, son of a gun, Sean Roden's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
He's looking better and better with each minute that goes by.
Yeah.
And Phil is not looking as good as time went on,
Yeah.
I mean, so when they announced it, that's why I said I was only mildly surprised.
Yeah.
We'll see now, though, that the big challenge for Sean Roden is if he can is he going to be a one. Remember the old thing about a one-hit wonder? These guys that
One done, yeah. One-hit wonder.
Yeah, and then they disappeared,
Right.
Is he going to be like some of those other Mr. Olympians, like Chris Dickerson and Samir, who won once and, never won it again? Or is he going to... I mean, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but, I write about science and, time is against Sean at 43 next year.
Yeah.
That's not an old man, but for bodybuilding, it's a little harder to get in that kind of shape year after year. So,
yeah.
I don't know. So I guess this is a long-winded way of saying that this coming Mr. Olympia, to me, from my point of view, is going to be one of the most exciting and interesting.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's a completely open contest.
I agree. Yeah.
Sean, even though he is the incumbent Mr. Olympia, because of the age factor and the other thing, I don't think he has an edge like Phil Heath like Lee Haney, like Arnold, like some of the guys. I don't think he has that kind of edge.
No, I don't either. Yeah.
So I consider it a completely open contest.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of symmetry versus mass, also in '88, I just talked to Phil Williams. And Phil won his first and only pro show that year, which was the 1988 Chicago Pro Show in Chicago.
Which I was at.
Yeah, he told the story about how you helped him because he was cramping up so much from taking the Aldactone.
Yeah, Bill Grant and I were hanging around with him. You know, I was there for Weeder. Jeff Everson was there too, I remember. You know, and he was having some problem. He was so dry and dehydrated.
Yeah.
He was cramping, so we took him to a restaurant, me and Graham, and you know, I told him what to eat, and, you know, got a little minerals in him, and of course he improved. And you know, Phil beat Gary Strydom in that show.
Right. And
Gary was tremendous bodybuilder.
Huge, yeah.
From the front, this guy was unbeatable. You know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Gary, as great as he was the antithesis of Lee Haney and Samir Banu. Didn't have the back detail.
Right.
You know, his lats weren't wide. Didn't have any muscularity in his back. Phil had a back like Samir and Lee. I mean,
yeah.
Phil, as you know, actually beat Lee Haney when they were young guys.
Yeah, when they were teenagers, right.
Phil was a clear winner. I mean, really great guy, you know. So it was an interesting show. I mean, but Phil looked great. I mean, he looked great that year.
Yeah, he told me that he took Aldactone, and he was also taking potassium with it.
Oh, yeah.
And you told him to take salt, take more sodium. Yeah,
exactly, because Aldactone is a what they call a potassium sparing diuretic.
Right.
So now when you take that, what that means is it holds potassium in the body, right? Now a normal amount of potassium is very important. It's important for nerve conduction, for your heartbeat, all that.
Right.
However, a large amount of potassium is very dangerous. In fact, when they put people to death, you know, when they give somebody the death penalty, the way they kill him is by injecting a needle in his heart. That's the last thing they do, of potassium chloride, enough to stop his heart. Because when you inject potassium directly in the heart, it has the same effect as a bullet going in the heart. The heart stops immediately.
Wow. Okay. So
they do that on top of the other drugs they do. Well, I don't want to get into the cause of death here, but the point is that Phil had done that. He had made the mistake. I saw another bodybuilder do that too. I'll tell you that about in a second. So yes, we brought up the restaurant. We had to take the salt, which was the cure, because the salt would drive the potassium out immediately. Also, I had to eat some carbohydrates, because an interesting fact, the listeners might want to know this, is carbohydrates, because they stimulate a rapid insulin release, also drive potassium out of the blood into the cells immediately, very fast. So that immediately cleared up. He was really very ill, Phil. I mean, the guy was so weak and messed up.
Yeah.
He didn't know whether he could even go back and pose for the night show.
Right.
But with the salt and the carbs that he ate, boom, a half hour later, he was wide awake. He was fine. He went back, didn't hurt him at all. Didn't hold any water.
Yeah.
He won the show. And I saw that happen to Mike Valerasso. Great guy, late Valerasso, unfortunately passed away.
Right.
One of the Arnold shows, they used to have a bus that took you from the hotel to the Veterans Auditorium in Columbus, Ohio. I caught the bus to go to the prejudge. There was only one other guy in the bus. It was Mike Valerasso, who I knew very well. I was good friends with him.
Uh-huh.
And I said, Mike, how you, because he was competing that night. I said, Mike, how you doing? How do you feel? Are you ready for the show? He says, Jerry, I feel like death. I feel like I'm going to die. And he looked funny. He had a funny kind of gray skin. So I said, Mike, what the hell's going on? He said, I don't know. He says, I took some Aldactone and I took a couple of grams of potassium. I said, what? You took a couple of grams of potassium with Aldactone? He says, yeah, why? Is there a problem? I said, and I told him what I just told you. I said, Mike, you could die. I said, are you feeling funny stuff in your chest? He says, yeah, I'm getting like heart palpitations. I said, oh my God, Mike, but somehow we got to the auditorium. I don't know. I didn't, I kind of like, he had to go somewhere and I lost track of him. He competed and seemed to be fine through the contest. I don't know whether he ate some salt. I did tell him to take some salt. So probably did that because he competed. He seemed, if you look at the video, he was fine in the video. I mean, he competed all right, but he's the only other guy that
I think he did go to the hospital that night. From what I heard the story that he went to the hospital that night.
I think he probably did, and the only other guy at the Arnold show that had to go to the hospital was Paul DeLedge.
Yeah, I remember that when he cramped up on stage.
Paul was a great guy, good friend of mine. He used to, but he was very insecure before a contest. He would call all these so-called guys that he thought were experts, 10 of them. One of them was me, Call them up and say, what should I do right before the contest? What should I take? And I tell him what to do. And then as soon as he got off the phone with me, he called 2 other guys. They tell him 2 other things to take.
Right.
Paul, unfortunately, listened to too many guys, wound up using too much of injectable Lasix. And when he got on stage, you remember he kind of stiffened up.
Yeah.
He went into rigor mortis, swallowing his face. And they had to literally
carry him off stage. Right.
Such a big guy, 3 guys had to carry him off the stage.
Right.
But I've seen a lot of things happen during contests over the years, and 99% of them, I'm talking about like medical emergencies or guys fainting or falling down while they're posing. I mean, things like that. Almost every case involved 1 or 2 items. Either they were dehydrated, not necessarily diuretics, but they stopped drinking water.
Right.
This is incredible. One guy had stopped drinking water. You won't believe this. Something like 4 or 5 days before the contest.
Jeez. He's
lucky he didn't die of kidney failure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how this guy was alive, but I'm trying not to laugh. This is not really funny, but I was interviewing him backstage, and I just asked him a question about his back workout. He said, "Well, I started doing shit," and
wow.
he passed out on the ground.
Yeah.
And I immediately, I said, "Water! Bring this guy water."
Yeah.
And we all circled around him, and he was okay after a couple of minutes. But it turns out this is the guy who had not drink water. I said, "What did you do, man? Did you take diuretics?" He says, "No, I didn't." I said, "Well, what's going on?" He says, I cut aren't you supposed to cut the water out before? I said, "Not 5 days before." I said, you better get to a hospital. You could have kidney failure right now.
Yeah. I saw a guy I think it was in the late 70s, and it was just some amateur contest, and they had a whole lineup of guys, and they did a quarter turn to the right, and this one guy just, boom, collapsed. Because back then, I remember it was standard in the gym, like everybody getting ready for a show, we wouldn't drink water Thursday, Friday, or Saturday.
Yeah.
All 3. I mean, everybody did that. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We wouldn't drink any water.
I saw a show once where, I can't remember his name. He was a big guy from New Jersey. You remember Tom Dieters was working for the magazine.
Yeah.
At the time. And Tom Dieters, we were in the press section, and they were lined up on stage, and the posing platform was really high off the stage, like 15 feet up, and this guy was standing at the edge of the platform.
Yeah.
And he started to kind of go like this. So Dieters and I noticed it at the same time. I said, "Tom, look at that guy at the end. Something's going on with that guy." He says, "We better get back there." we better get back there real fast. So we ran backstage. This guy was really a big guy.
Yeah.
He was like, this guy really was about 240. He won a couple of shows. I can't remember his name. Nice guy. He was from New Jersey, I remember. We literally got him, John, right before he was going to fall off. He started we grabbed him, both of us.
Wow.
And 2 other guys working backstage ran up and also caught him. We got him right when he would have cracked his skull, backstage. And we brought him backstage, and same thing, this guy, in his case, it was diuretics. He was completely, the blood circulation to his brain was gone.
Right.
His blood volume had dropped so much that his brain wasn't getting blood perfusion and oxygen.
Right.
So the guy might as well have been standing at the top of Mount Everest instead of, he just, I mean, thank God, we gave him some water. And again, in minutes, the guy was fine. I mean, it's amazing how fast, So, I mean, there's a couple of guys, I'm not trying to put a halo over my head, But there's quite a few guys over the years where I attended the contest where I was able to, kind of step in before something serious happened, where I was able to see them.
Yeah.
Most of the time it was diuretic use, where you could see that they were in trouble. I managed. Flex Wheeler even says I saved his life. He wrote in his autobiography. Arnold show. He says I saved his life. I don't know if that's true or not, but the point is, all I can say is I was glad to be there.
Yeah.
So to prevent these guys from really getting messed up.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. I'm not trying to say I'm some heroic character or something like that.
Right. Hey, speaking of Phil Williams, if he would have, that contest was held 3 weeks before the Olympia, the '88 Olympia we just talked about. If he would have went in it in that condition that he won the Chicago Pro Show, how do you think he would have did?
I think he would have at least made the top 5 at least.
I agree.
You remember what the top 5 was? Because I can tell you more definitive.
Haney was first. Gaspari was second. DeMay was third. Labrada was fourth. Stridham was fifth. And Mike Quinn was sixth.
Okay, I say that Phil would have got fifth. He would have beaten Stridham for sure.
He would have beaten Stridham, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Definitely for sure. He would have gotten fifth.
And he had beaten Labrada before a couple times at the USA and the Nationals, remember?
He beat him, he might have even placed ahead of Labrada.
Yeah.
If he had gotten in that shape, for all I know, he might have placed as high as second.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have beaten Lee Haney.
No, I don't think so either.
He might have placed as high as second.
Yeah.
Because remember, people forget Phil Williams had a perfect body.
He did. He had incredible.
He had a very small looking waist. He had thigh sweep, thigh cuts. He had calves.
Yeah.
And his back was among the best in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And remember, he also had great arms, better arms.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he just wasn't the biggest guy. I remember when Phil tried to make a comeback years later at the Night of the Champions in New York, which I also covered. Phil was a good friend of mine, of course, and he was just completely wiped out, and he didn't even make the top 10. And I remember him saying to me, he says, Jerry, I can't compete against these guys. They're just big.
Right.
He says, I just can't get that big. Which saddened me, because again, my thing was always symmetry and proportion, and Phil was an ideal example of that.
Yeah.
And it was sad that a guy with such a great physique wasn't even in the running anymore.
I know.
Because of the giant bodybuilders.
The size had taken over. Yeah.
Yeah, the size had taken over. So a guy like him, a guy like Frank Zane, a guy like Lee Labrada, today these guys would not even make the top 10.
Wouldn't even get looked at. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I have mixed feelings. I admire the muscle mass of the guys today.
Yeah.
Talking about the pros now, not the physique guys and the other guys, but
right.
But I kind of miss the days when when the physiques were more, let's say, not only symmetry proportion, but they were more attainable, and where the public could relate to them.
Right.
They can't. That's why they have these physique divisions and men's physique and class. Because they had to bring that back because nobody could relate to the pros. They're just too fucking big.
Right.
But you see, what bothers me from another point of view is that you gotta, people don't think about this, but when I see those guys, I say to myself, what did it take to get that kind of muscle size?
Yeah.
What are these guys doing to themselves? How much drugs are they taking to do? What's going to happen to these guys?
Yeah.
This is, it's not so much the size, it's that if these guys here's my point, if these guys try and get bigger and bigger and bigger, sooner or later the dam is going to break. It's going to, you're going to have guys dropping dead on stage, seriously.
Yeah.
There's got to be a point, and I'm not saying that drug testing is the answer, because Wayne was right about that. Let's face it, if you take the drugs away from these guys, Phil, he probably wouldn't even make the top 10 for all I know.
Right.
Because, even then they call him the gift. All right, maybe I'm being a little bit hyperbolic there because he's good enough to make, of course, he'd still place pretty high. But the point is that you take away the drugs and you have a completely different looking physique.
Absolutely.
You still have, but here's the point, you'd still have, and this is what I argue with people who don't know anything about bodybuilding. Well, if it wasn't for these drugs, they say, these guys would look no different than guys on the street. I mean, what a stupid statement that is.
Right.
What a stupid statement. I said, I say to these guys, you think that these guys, these pros or whatever, even the classic bodybuilders, you think that without drugs they would look like they never touched a weight? You think their physiques are 100% drugs?
Yeah.
Is that what you say? Listen to yourself.
Right.
Listen to how stupid that is.
Right.
And they say, well, I know it's all drugs. That's my uncle. All right, see you later. I'm not going to argue with that. It's kind of stupid mentality.
Right.
That's great. The truth of the matter, and I've said this about, I said I was an average body. I didn't have great genetics myself. You have much better genetics than me and all that. But the point is that I could take the same drug program that Sean Roden or Phil Heath or Ronnie Coleman or what's his name? Who's the guy? Good friend of mine, just Phil, Jay Cutler.
Yeah.
Any of these guys, I wouldn't look anything. Or Arnold, forget it.
Yeah.
I would. In fact, I saw guys use Arnold's program. I saw it back in the '60s. All the guys that trained Arnold was very forthcoming. It wasn't like the guys today where everything's secret. I'm not going to tell you.
Right.
Back then, he would tell him exactly what he used. He'd even give him his drugs. I was in Arnold's apartment when a bunch of guys lined up. I don't want to mention their names to embarrass them, but we've already talked about some of them. But some guys lined up, and Arnold he had a preventable injection, the same one he used to. And they dropped their pants, and he threw it in their butt like a dartboard. And I was sitting on the couch watching, and every time he did this, I said, "Oh my God!" So, including one of the guys was my training partner at the time. Each guy was lined up and got the dartboard. But my point is that. All of these guys, all the guys that trained with Arnold, they all used the same drugs.
Yeah.
And as you said earlier, they didn't use the drugs anything like the guys today. They got off the drugs after the show. But the point is, none of them responded to the drugs like Arnold. They never came close to looking like Arnold.
Yeah.
Other than Arnold, in those days, I'd say the guy who responded best to the drugs of all the guys was Danny Padilla. Danny Padilla, who had amazing, like I said, 30-day transformation from a little short guy who literally did look like he didn't train to a guy who was, to me, I don't know if you agree with this, one of the greatest short bodybuilders.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I saw him in shape right in front of me, and again, no weakness, no weak points. The only thing wrong with Danny was that he wasn't tall.
Oh, yeah.
And I really think that I have a category I call uncrowned Mr. Olympias. Mm-hmm. There's several men I felt should have won. Like Flex Wheeler is one of them. Lila Brada is one of them. And Danny Padilla is definitely on that list. I think he should have won the Mr. Olympia because, again, it relates to my standards of perfect symmetry, perfect aesthetics.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want to look like Danny Padilla?
Yeah.
He wasn't overwhelmingly big where you'd say, ah!
Yeah.
Oh, my dog just jumped up on him. Nothing against you, but he just has a great looking physique,
Yeah.
And that's the key. The guys years ago, I mean, when they went to the beach, people, Frank Zane, even Arnold, people weren't freaked out over there. They were just, they were amazed because you have to understand, we're talking the 60s and 70s, bodybuilders were as rare as pink flamingos.
Yeah.
You just, most people had no physiques, literally.
Yeah.
So when they see a guy like Arnold walk down the beach, it was almost like this. The looks on their face, it was almost as if a UFO had landed right there in the sand. What the hell is this?
But you're saying because they were so aesthetically pleasing, they weren't people weren't freaked out about them. They were freaked out, but not grossed out by them.
Exactly, and you could see the look on the face of both men and women when they would look at Arnold. It wasn't like they lived like, wow, look at this guy. How did he get like that? The guys that could read their minds, they'd say, wow, why can't I look like that?
Yeah.
It was admiration, John. It wasn't discussed.
Yeah.
Like people today look at Phil Heath, maybe not Sean Roden, because but some of the other guys, right. They find it repulsive.
Yeah, I did an interview with John Torelli from Australia, and John had a really great symmetrical physique, very nice.
Nice height.
And then he said toward the end of his career, but before he retired, he went into the NAB of Mr. Universe. He was done with the IFBB. He went over to the NAB of Mr. Universe, and he got bigger than ever. I don't know if it was from the training he was doing or if he was doing different drugs or whatever. And he said as he was getting ready for the contest, he went to the beach, and these two young girls walked by him. He was like by a concession stand to buy some food or something. And they walked by and they looked at him and they go, ugh, gross. Now, years ago, he would have gotten, oh, wow, look how hot he is, But now he had gotten so big that, it's just like, ugh.
Yeah. See, there seems to be a point at which people just don't relate to it.
Yeah.
In other words, it's almost like the bodybuilder is not human anymore.
Yeah.
He becomes literally a monster. We use that expression in bodybuilding, for years.
That's a compliment.
That's huge. He's a monster. We're not comparing him to Frankenstein. We're saying that he's monstrously big.
Right.
But to these people, he is, the big guys with all the veins. I remember Paul Dillette had a big problem with that. When Paul and I would walk around, sometimes he'd walk around in a tank top. You know how big Paul was?
Yeah.
And he had big veins sticking all over his shit.
Right.
Almost looked like varicose veins, I have to admit.
Right.
And I remember going in the supermarket once, and I saw a couple of women. They didn't say anything, but Paul didn't see this. I saw it. They looked at him. They kind of went like this, they put the vomit.
Right.
I didn't want. Paul was a sensitive guy. I didn't want to hurt his feelings. So I didn't say anything. But I'm thinking they think he's disgusting. I said to myself.
Right.
It's one of the top 5 pro bodybuilders in the world, and they think, and they would go for a skinny guy weighing 160 pounds who had abs over Paul.
Absolutely, yeah.
all that Paul did, all the steroids he took, everything, and not that that's the most important thing in the world. Who cares what they think anyway, right?
Yeah.
But it's just kind of funny. But I guess the whole point I'm trying to make about this is that we're talking about the contest years ago. I think that this type of look was better for both health reasons and for the popularity. Bodybuilding, let's face it, it's never going to be, and John Balick used to talk about this, publisher environment, it's never going to be a mainstream sport like football, baseball, because there's a number of reasons. Because first of all, it requires more effort. Second of all, people can't relate to it. And most importantly of all, people aren't willing, when they find out what it takes to be any kind of bodybuilder, going into the gym, sweating every day, going through, being religious about your workouts and your diet, it's not popular. People don't have that kind of drive to do that.
Right.
So it'll never be popular. But however, it can be more appealing, in my opinion, if the physiques were scaled back a little bit.
Yeah.
And this is to underscore what I'm saying. Again, I've only heard this. I don't know if this is a fact, but what I was told is that these new divisions, these like the classic physique and the men's physique, where they wear the board shorts, is it's becoming extremely popular.
Yeah.
I've heard sometimes some of these contests, like 300 guys show up.
Yeah.
Wow. Bodybuilding was practically dying.
Right.
You get like guys showing up before. Now all these guys, because they say, okay, I can't be as big as the pros, but man, I can get abs. I can get some muscle definition, maybe bring my delts out.
Yeah.
And hell, if I compete in men's physique, I don't even have to train my thighs.
Right.
What's better than that?
Right. Exactly.
So I think it's a great trend. But again, it's bodybuilding is getting more popular because of that.
Yeah. The competitions are getting bigger and bigger.
But what else can I say? Anything you want to ask me about the contest, John?
No, I think that's good. I think we covered. Just thanks for going down memory lane with me and covering 1968, 78, and 88. I think it was more exciting to talk about that than it was to talk about 2018.
Yeah, much more. And let me tell you, I think there was an old saying in the, I think Gloria Swanson said this in that movie Sunset Boulevard.
Oh yeah.
There's a line in the movie where she says the stars had faces back then. In other words, what she was saying was that, and there's another line that was great where she says, when somebody says to her, "Hey, aren't you so and so? You used to be really big in the movies, weren't you?"
Yeah.
And she responds by saying, "I'm still big." It's the movies that got small.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
Anyway, my point is that to paraphrase that, you could say that back then the physiques were different. In other words, they were better looking.
Yeah.
And they could differentiate. All the bodies didn't look the same.
Yeah.
You had a Frank Zane, you had an Arnold. It was more aesthetic. It was just more appealing to people.
Yeah,
you know what
absolutely.
I'm saying? Yeah. Honestly, if I was a kid just starting out, I think you probably started very young too.
Yeah.
If I was 12 years old again, as I was when I started lifting weights, if the bodybuilders back then looked like the pros looked like they did today. I was a swimmer before I became a bodybuilder. I started training in a weight gym that was near the pool where I practiced my swimming.
Uh-huh.
If I if I walked in a weight room and contemplated starting to lift weights, and somebody handed me a magazine, and the guys pictured what looked like they do today, I would have put down the magazine, stepped out of the gym, and went right back into the pool.
Yeah, right, exactly.
When I began lifting weights,
Right.
So I'm just one person, but I think a lot of people probably feel that.
Well, we didn't even talk about how exciting the audiences were then too. Remember? You were at some of those classic shows at Brooklyn Academy of Music in the '60s, and I was at the Olympia in the '70s, the late '70s, the one that Zane won, and then you were at that one in '88. I mean, the crowds were just insane.
Very enthusiastic. Yeah. I mean, I haven't been to a large show. I haven't been to an Arnold or Olympia in a while. But I don't get the feeling that it's the same type of enthusiasm that we had back. Every contest, the crowd was so into it. I mean, they were screaming. We talked about how Larry Scott got literally a 20-minute standing ovation, screaming 1966, screaming and yelling at the top of their lungs. I was one of them. Lou Ferrigno was, yelling for this guy. I mean, I competed at a contest at a place called Mount Holyoke.
Yeah.
With my good friend, what's his name? You know him, the guy who lives
at Jubenville.
No, Jubenville's protege. Damn, I'm bad on names today.
Dave Masarakis.
Hey, Dave, good friend of mine. Dave, great guy. We competed in a show there because Dave was from that area and Jubenville was his mentor. But I remember it was just a small crowd. It was an amusement park.
Yeah.
But people were screaming and yelling too.
Yeah.
They were standing up. It made you feel good, you know what I'm saying? They got so I beat Ron Coots, who went on to win the USA.
Yeah.
I won the state Southern California at a police academy here in Los Angeles. When I was 19 years old, I won the Junior Southern California. I beat him, and again, small auditorium. Half of them were cops, for crying out loud, and they were on there. Every time I did my Arnold chest pose, they were all standing. Hey, kid, hey, you're great. And they're yelling. Yeah. I mean, I remember feeling so great, Yeah. I could have become a narcissist because of that.
Right.
Some people think I am.
Yeah, I remember being at the '77 Olympia that Zane won the first time, and I was 14 years old, and the whole night show I was standing up, clapping and screaming. My voice was hoarse the next day. I mean, you don't see that kind of adulation for these competitors anymore.
Don't feel alone. I did the same thing when I was that age. I was just like you. I remember, like I told you, I used to, luckily, at the Brooklyn Academy, I'd actually get backstage.
Yeah, that's amazing.
All the bodybuilders and asking for autographs.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I said, what the hell is an autograph? But I was 13, 14 years old.
Right.
And, the thing, other than Sergio Oliva, the thing I always remember is how nice the guys were. Don Horvath, a guy named Gabe Boudreau.
Yeah.
They were just such nice guys. they'd say, "What do you want me to write, kid?" They'd write it down.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a very, let me put it this way, I got a very good impression of bodybuilders as men, as human beings.
Yeah.
From that little interaction I had. I said, these people are decent people. They're nice to a kid who they don't even know.
Yeah.
Except Turgeon,
Yeah.
I've forgiven him,
Yeah.
May he rest in peace, as they say,
Right. Yeah, those were the days, as they say, right, Jerry?
Yeah, John, you're right.
Well, Jerry, I want to thank you for joining us. You spent a lot of time talking about the old days, so I appreciate it. And it's always great to hear your stories. And it's great to talk to you again. And I want to wish you a Happy New Year for 2019.
Absolutely. I hope you have a great and healthy New Year yourself, too. And keep up this great work. I always look forward to your videos about, the great bodybuilders of the past. And to me, it is literally a stroll down memory lane.
Exactly.
I sit there, if you saw me watching, I got this big smile on my face the whole time. It's great.
That's great to hear.
Keep up the great work.
All right, I will. All right, buddy. All right, thanks again, Jerry. Thanks for your time, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Take care, John. Bye-bye.
All right, Jerry. Take care.